Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 21 276 An All-Out Battle. 21st of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The battle technique intent of a 5Cs realm martial mystic cultivator transforms into the more profound Dao heart intent and Dao heart manifestation upon reaching the Dao seed realm. Dao heart intent, after reaching the second heaven of the Dao seed realm, tremor, becomes significantly more potent, serving as a crucial method for martial mystic cultivators to cultivate their soul spirits. With psychic power alone, it can suppress a 5Cs realm martial mystic cultivator into trembling fear, inflicting severe psychological damage and achieving victory without a fight. This was precisely the situation Qin Qian found herself in at this moment. Li Wei also sensed the invisible psychic power and unleashed 6-5 Zhong Tal battle technique intent divine shadows, shielding the jade boat from Long Ting's psychic attacks. Having cultivated 5th level spiritual qi, he could maintain the 6 battle technique intent divine shadows for an extended period, unleashing 15 times his usual combat strength. Of course, this state consumed an enormous amount of magical qi. Boom. Li Wei locked eyes with Long Ting from afar. Suddenly, he raised his arm and pressed his palm against the back of Qin Qian's head, infusing her with a surge of dense spiritual qi. Before her innate world could collapse, he released the seal on her wind mansion. You take control of the jade boat. I'll handle Long Ting. Qin Qian had already recovered from the suppression of Long Ting's Dao heart intent. Ignoring her injuries, she leapt out of the coffin and obediently hurried to the bow, pressing her palm against the hull as a steady stream of spiritual qi flowed from her body. Qin Qian turned back, warning, be careful. Long Ting is no longer the same. The dragon sect's bloodline and cultivation law perfectly align with the dragon seed. His cultivation is terrifying, boosting the enemy's morale and deflating our own. If we truly fight to the death, who knows who will fall. Li Wei circulated his spiritual qi, regulating his breathing to enter his peak state. Whoosh! The jade boat's light surged, its speed increasing again. Dense scriptures erupted from the crystal clear hull. This is. Qin Qian was surprised, sensing the jade boat's high grade. If not for the winding underground river, requiring constant course adjustments, its speed would be terrifying. Long Ting, closing within 60 feet, saw the jade boat's acceleration and his gaze darkened. He summoned his trump card spiritual artifact, the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale, from his ancestral field. This dragon scale, left by the ancient emperor Flying Dragon in his youth, had been refined by dragon sect sages into a 7th grade 100-character scripture artifact. It was the strongest weapon granted to Long Ting upon reaching the Dao seed realm, and his confidence in challenging higher-level cultivators. Dragon sect possessed another artifact, a 1000-character scripture artifact refined from the Emperor's dragon scale, with even greater power. Under the influence of Dao seed spiritual qi, scarlet scripture characters emerged from the Crimson Fire Dragon scale, instantly turning the cold, gloomy blood river space into a scorching summer heat. The nearly 10-foot diameter dragon scale slashed out, its unleashed power causing the entire stretch of the river to boil. Li Wei stood at the stern, sword in hand, activating the blood handprint demonic armor's protective power. Demonic runes covered his skin. Whoosh! Whoosh! 12 battle technique intent divine shadows materialized, filling the space around the jade boat like a gathering of gods. In the past 3 months, Li Wei had cultivated battle technique intent for all 12 dispersed hands of the Chan sect. His mental state had reached its peak, his mind calm and focused. He analyzed the Crimson Fire Dragon scale's speed and trajectory, seeking the perfect moment to strike. Raising his sword with both hands, he swung it horizontally through the air. A sword chi arc over a dozen yards long shot forth. Just then, the Crimson Fire Dragon scale pierced the jade boat's defenses and appeared directly in front of Li Wei. Scarlet flames erupted, threatening to incinerate him completely. Qin Qian watched intently, her heart pounding in her throat. How could a 5Cs realm martial mystic cultivator possibly stand against a Dao seed realm expert? Boom! The yellow dragon sword clashed against the Crimson Fire Dragon scale, producing a deafening metallic screech that threatened to pierce the eardrums. The power of the high-grade spiritual artifact pressed down on the jade boat's stern, causing it to sink violently. Sparks of sword chi and crimson fire flew in all directions. The spiritual artifact energies locked in a brief stalemate before Li Wei was forced to retreat. He crashed through coffins at the stern, sliding all the way to the bow. His hands split open, blood dripping between his fingers. His outer robe exploded, revealing the blood handprint demonic armor he wore beneath his governor's robe. It was clearly an official robe, but impossible to tell which rank it belonged to. Official robes with protective spiritual artifacts weren't rare. Li Wei had blocked the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale's attack, deflecting it so that it flew diagonally into the right side cliff face, causing a large section to collapse. Qin Qian stared at Li Wei beside her as if he were a monster. How could he have blocked the Dragon Court's most powerful strike? If he hadn't been crippled, his future martial mystic Dao cultivation would have been unimaginable. Long Ting frowned, clearly not expecting this outcome. He had assumed that using the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale would have instantly destroyed their boat and killed everyone on board. With his current cultivation, he couldn't control such a powerful artifact freely, so the attack was temporarily suspended. While continuing to pursue them, he released spiritual qi to retrieve the dragon scale from the cliff face. Li Wei, didn't your ancestral field get crippled? How did your combat strength increase so much? You don't look like you've planted a Dao seed in the Wind Mansion. Long Ting's voice echoed across the river's misty surface. Spiritual qi surged through Li Wei's body, rapidly healing his numb and aching arms. Li Wei secretly pondered, what are my chances of killing Long Ting if I reveal my governor's robe? He quickly abandoned the idea. The disparity in cultivation was too great, and the risks were uncontrollable. Long Ting was indeed a formidable opponent now. Li Wei feigned nonchalance, joking, it's not that I've gotten stronger, it's that you're not as strong as you think you are. You're only good at bullying that woman of Lu Kangsheng's who hasn't even mastered the 7th sea. Qin Qian rolled her eyes, realizing this guy didn't even know her name. My name is Qin Qian, she said. Long Ting saw the blood on Li Wei's fingers, knowing he was putting up a front. He was about to activate his Crimson Fire Dragon Scale again when a dense chorus of insect chirps and the sound of fluttering wings filled the air. 7 phoenix-winged moth emperors had summoned a massive swarm of fierce insects from the depths, forming a glowing cloud that surged toward Long Ting. Ah, I'd forgotten you're also an insect tamer, Long Ting said, standing tall on his dragon's back, unfazed. He took out his bone flute, infused it with spiritual qi and Dao heart intent, and blew a piercing melody. The sound waves and spiritual qi created visible ripples in the underground space. Not just the fierce insects, but even Qin Qian, a 7th sea martial mystic cultivator, was affected by the flute's sound. Chaotic thoughts flooded her mind, and blood trickled from her ears. Li Wei watched the insect swarm descend into chaos and immediately activated his heaven and earth divine meridian. Using his psychic power, he restored order to the insects within a 100-foot radius. Simultaneously, he rapidly sketched insect script characters, which flew from his brow and struck the general-level ferocious insects. Long Ting controlled the insect swarm with his flute, pitting them against the swarm controlled by Li Wei and the 7 phoenix-winged moth emperors. Insect corpses rained down like rain. When Long Ting saw the 2 divine tree light and shadow projections rising behind Li Wei, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He hadn't expected this person to achieve such a breakthrough in psychic power. However, this also indirectly confirmed that Li Wei's ancestral field was truly ruined. Otherwise, why would he have shifted his cultivation focus to psychic power? Roar. The azure dragon roared, its dragon's roar deafening. The 10-yard-long azure dragon light and shadow beneath Long Ting's feet suddenly raised a sharp dragon claw and slammed it toward the jade boat, aiming for Li Wei. Boom. The jade boat's protective scripture and light barrier trembled violently under the dragon claw's impact. The jade boat rocked violently. He's catching up. He's gotten faster. No, we've gotten slower. Li Wei glanced back at Qin Qian at the bow, noticing her deathly pale complexion and severely depleted spiritual qi. Just 2 5C's realm martial mystic cultivators managing to hold me off for this long, you've already shown considerable skill. Long Ting flickered, leaving the azure dragon shadow behind and soaring into the air. From above, he unleashed the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale, once again slashing towards the jade boat. Li Wei knew the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale's power was immense. Even if he blocked it, he would still be injured. Moreover, Long Ting would seize the opportunity to board the jade boat. Once Long Ting set foot on the vessel, Li Wei would be completely at his mercy. Without hesitation, Li Wei activated his movement technique in a flash, dodging the Crimson Fire Dragon Scale. He then stepped onto the yellow dragon shadow, soaring into the sky and appearing at the same height as Long Ting. You're challenging me directly. You truly don't know your place. Long Ting smirked, pointing his bone flute forward. Dense scripture characters materialized on the flute's surface. The moment Li Wei's sword touched the bone flute, an irresistible force surged through him, nearly wrenching the weapon from his grasp. Long Ting saw Li Wei's predicament, realizing his overwhelming advantage in realm and power. He clenched his fingers into a claw and lunged for Li Wei's neck. Whoosh! 2 phoenix-winged moth emperors burst from behind Li Wei, one spewing golden crow flame and the other unleashing thunder and lightning from its eyes. Long Ting's protective spiritual qi shattered, sending a jolt of shock through him. He had no choice but to retract his claw from Li Wei's neck. He then unleashed a phantom dragon claw of spiritual qi to neutralize the golden crow flame and thunder and lightning. Simultaneously, his Dao heart intent sensed 3 more phoenix-winged moth emperors rising from behind him, their sharp claws extended in attack. Long Ting conceded again, abandoning his offensive initiative against Li Wei. Instead, he channeled a massive amount of spiritual qi to activate the silver robe and white gown he wore. Countless silver scriptures materialized across his body. Boom! A 6th phoenix-winged moth emperor suddenly appeared, colliding with him and causing the silver scriptures to tremble violently. Long Ting reeled backward through the air as if struck by a heavy blow, breaking out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he had chosen to prioritize defense earlier. Otherwise, with Li Wei and the rare insect's perfect coordination, the first wave of attacks would have already wounded him. The combat power of these 7 rare insects had grown exponentially since the Hidden Dragon Lantern Festival. With time to recover, Li Wei circulated his spiritual qi throughout his body, healing his arm. He then launched a joint attack with the 7 phoenix-winged moth emperors, engaging Long Ting in a chaotic battle that raged from midair to the water's surface. Boom! Boom! The stone cliffs lining the riverbanks crumbled continuously. Meanwhile, the jade boat struck by the crimson fire dragon scale saw its protective barrier and scripture shatter, sinking into the water with a thunderous crash. After a long moment, the jade boat resurfaced. Qin Qian lay sprawled on the bow, too injured to stand. She watched the 2 figures locked in combat on the water's surface. What she had expected to be a one-sided battle had turned into a fierce, evenly matched struggle. Long Ting fought with extreme difficulty. Despite his superior cultivation, he found himself constantly constrained. It felt as though he were being besieged by 8 Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators. He could easily defeat any one of them individually, but the combined power of Li Wei and the 7 rare insects left him flustered and scrambling. He was forced to endure blows from time to time. What made matters worse was that both Li Wei and the 7 rare insects possessed exceptional defense and endurance, making it nearly impossible to break them down one by one. After exchanging hundreds of blows, Long Ting seized an opportunity. The Azure Dragon Phantom erupted from his body once more, allowing him to break free from the encirclement. He retrieved the Crimson Fire Dragon scale, preparing to unleash this heavy weapon to shatter their formation. Whoosh! 5 phoenixes, renowned for their speed, caught up with Long Ting. Their wings slashed at his neck, pinning him down. Even Qin Qian on the jade boat saw the danger of the situation. With her last remaining strength, she unleashed the thunder technique, summoning the thunder annihilation formation, 18 bolts of lightning crashing down on Long Ting. Li Wei moved with lightning-fast speed, his sword piercing toward Long Ting's forehead. Long Ting shook off 5 phoenixes with a roar, Azure Dragon Arm. This was the first Dao technique he had cultivated. Dao technique cultivation was incredibly difficult. Achieving the first level of a single Dao technique typically took at least a year or 2. Long Ting had spent most of his time breaking through cultivation realms, leaving his Dao technique at a mere introductory level. Even so, he could unleash formidable combat power in an instant. His right arm was covered in dense, iron-like dragon scales. This Azure Dragon arm collided with Li Wei's sword strike in the combined force of the 6 phoenix-winged moth emperors. Boom! Li Wei's entire body shuddered violently. The demon runes on his body dimmed, his internal organs screamed in agony, and he was sent flying backward, spewing a mouthful of blood. All 6 phoenix-winged moth emperors plummeted into the waters of the underground river. Meanwhile, Long Ting was bleeding from all 7 orifices, his injuries even more severe. He was flung backward and slammed into the stone wall with a loud thud, his body embedding itself in the rock. Both men were decisive, their fighting spirit tenacious, and their combat intelligence exceptionally high. Li Wei produced the Purple Heaven Thunder Seal, summoning over a dozen bolts of thunder and lightning, and hurled it at the stone wall. Long Ting completed activating the Crimson Fire Dragon scale and unleashed it toward Li Wei. Seeing the incoming heavy weapon, both men's expressions changed dramatically. They each employed their movement techniques to evade the attack. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 22 277 Northern Chu Plains. 22nd of Volume 4. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei and Long Ting had dodged the spiritual artifact, but the residual power it released was still too much for their physical bodies to withstand. They were struck by lightning and flames respectively, grunting as they were sent flying. Long Ting's entire body was charred black. He clung to the stone wall with one hand, retracting his Crimson Fire Dragon scales. He looked down at the water below, contemplating whether to suppress his injuries and seize this opportunity to finish off Li Wei once and for all. But then he was horrified to see 7 phoenix-winged moth emperors approaching from 7 different directions. These 7 strange insects have such strong defenses. Terrified, Long Ting immediately changed his mind and fled into a crack in the earth, leaving behind a voice that grew fainter with distance. When I reach the third heaven of the Tao seed of Breakthrough Realm, your death is certain. His cultivation was already close to the third heaven of the Tao seed realm, and he possessed the combat strength to defeat opponents above his level. Ordinary inferior root Tao seed realm martial mystic cultivators at the third heaven wouldn't stand a chance against him. Li Wei suppressed his injuries and looked up at the crack in the earth dozens of meters above. He didn't activate his governor's official robe to pursue. Long Ting wasn't alone, many powerful demon clan experts had been traveling with him earlier. He recalled Little Seven and the Purple Heaven Thunder Seal, then stepped onto the waves and flew back to the jade boat. Qin Qian lay on the bow of the ship, her gaze at Li Wei completely changed, her heart deeply shaken. How could someone of his cultivation have driven Long Ting back? The spiritual qi energy released by the 7 strange insects didn't even seem to be from the Tao seed realm. Li Wei walked over, his gaze sharp as a blade, staring at her. A fierce internal struggle raged within him. Ultimately, his innate goodness triumphed over reason. He knelt down, his fingers probing her 5 Cs, then her wind mansion and ancestral field, meticulously examining and searching each one. Qin Qian, terrified by his gaze, dared not move, allowing him to manipulate her as he pleased. Plop. Li Wei grabbed her collar and tossed her into the blood river, his voice cold. If you don't want to die, wash yourself clean immediately and change into fresh clothes. Hurry. I'll give you no more than 30 breaths. Blood trickled from Li Wei's mouth as he clutched his chest. He then retrieved a set of male clothing from his boundary pouch and tossed it onto the ship, beginning to meditate and heal. In the water, Qin Qian had initially been furious, feeling Li Wei had shown her no respect. But his unusual behavior forced her to think. She soon understood the reason. Long Ting's ability to track them accurately across hundreds of miles strongly suggested he had tampered with her. Li Wei had been probing Qin Qian's innate worlds, searching for something. It was clear now why his gaze had been so terrifying earlier. He had been contemplating whether to abandon her to her fate. For some reason, Qin Qian's mind was exceptionally clear at that moment. Understanding everything, Qin Qian gritted her teeth and stripped in the water. She felt deeply wronged. No one from the Thundercloud sect had ever dared to treat her so roughly, and she had never been a burden. Yet now, it seemed as if everything was her fault. She glanced surreptitiously at Li Wei, standing on the boat. The man made no attempt to avoid her gaze, his eyes wide open, though he wasn't looking at her but lost in thought. This was mortifying. After several dozen breaths, Qin Qian climbed aboard, changed into dry clothes, her long hair still dripping wet. Her entire body remained tense, and her already pale face was flushed crimson. Slap. Without warning, Li Wei struck her forehead with a finger imbued with powerful spiritual power. Qin Qian lost consciousness and collapsed into his arms. Li Wei shrunk the spiritual jade boat to the size of his palm, then activated the spatial power of his governor's official robe, transforming it into a ball of purple mist. Using the power of spatial travel, he descended toward the ground. Qin Qian slowly regained consciousness, finding herself still on the jade boat. But things had changed. The jade boat was now hurtling through the clouds at breakneck speed. She glanced at the tall figure standing at the bow, guiding the boat, and wondered why he had knocked her unconscious earlier. Suddenly, a chill swept through her chest, sleeves, and legs. Cold wind blew into the ill-fitting, oversized robe, forcing her to curl her slender hands and legs. Then, Qin Qian realized that all her broken bones had been mended. Her emotions were complex, tears welling in her eyes. Li Wei didn't turn around. 13 bones broken, including your arm, collarbone, ribs, tailbone, and finger bones. Long Ting really didn't hold back. That's 130,000 Yongquan coins, plus the 100,000 from before. Let's call it 500,000. Surprisingly, Qin Qian didn't argue. She remained silent. Because of you, Long Ting was drawn here, forcing me to fight him to the death. I'm severely injured. Surely that's worth at least 270,000 Yongquan coins. Li Wei turned to face her, explaining his reasoning. He thought she had decent talent and a striking appearance, making it likely she could get 500,000 Yongquan coins from the Qin clan and Lu Kangsheng. That would settle his debt with Yin Er. Qin Qian wiped away her tears and replied calmly, whatever you say. Do I have any room to negotiate? Li Wei noticed her low spirits and couldn't help but reflect on whether he had exploited her too much. He offered comfort. People only achieve true enlightenment through great ups and downs. The calamity at Long Ting, though it caused you immense pain, was also a rare experience. The real disaster is eternal damnation, death without a chance to return. At least you're still alive, aren't you? Qin Qian replied, Long Ting wanted to kill you and eldest brother. I'm the victim here. I should reflect, but not because of this. Li Wei was slightly taken aback, unsure how to respond. The Purple Heaven Thunder Seal was once the Thundercloud sect's most treasured artifact. It's said to now be the war weapon of a giant from the Zhu tribe. It was only lent to you during the Hidden Dragon Lantern Festival and has already been returned, Qin Qian suddenly said. Li Wei frowned. You don't sound like you're negotiating. You sound like you're courting death. If I die, the Thundercloud sect won't let you off. If Long Ting escapes, he'll surely spread the word about what happened between us. HMPH, you can't threaten me. Qin Qian continued, besides, if you kill me, who will pay you? If you, Li Wei, were truly ruthless, you would have already thrown me into the underground blood river. Li Wei was amused by her words, especially since she had a point. Fearing that Li Wei might actually kill her to silence her, Qin Qian softened her tone. Don't worry, I won't repay kindness with ingratitude. I'll pretend I never saw the Purple Heaven Thunder Seal, and I'll find a way to get you the 500,000 Yongquan coins. I just feel you shouldn't treat me like an idiot or look down on me so much. As long as you pay. If Long Ting dares to spread rumors, I won't let him off. Li Wei's expression relaxed, and he smiled. If old Lu misunderstands, let me know, and I'll explain. He's a smart man. You'd better not say anything to him. Qin Qian snorted coldly, fell silent, and began to heal her wounds. After the jade boat had flown north for several hundred miles, Li Wei's spiritual qi was severely depleted. He returned to the ground, intending to rest for 2 hours and absorb heaven and earth dharma. The northern Chu plains stretched endlessly. It was the crisp autumn season, and as far as the eye could see, yellow and red leaves carpeted the ground, while withered grass stood a foot high, creating a desolate yet magnificent landscape. Strangely. On the plains, numerous grave mounds and stone stels appeared, densely packed in an unnatural way. Under the slanting sunlight, they cast long shadows. The grave mounds had swelled directly from the earth, most only a few feet high. The stone stels were ancient and fragmented, bearing inscriptions dating back thousands of years. If Li Wei hadn't already heard Zuoqiu Kengwu's explanation, he would have thought he'd stumbled into the underworld, the realm of dead souls. The eerie sensation and overwhelming shock of witnessing this firsthand were indescribable. It truly felt like the apocalypse was slowly descending, a terrifying atmosphere hanging in the air. He released his spiritual power to investigate. Most of the grave mounds contained skeletal remains, in varying states of decay. What kind of power could have caused this? Whoosh! Li Wei pressed his palm against the ground. Threads of spiritual light spread out, but he found no trace of any strange energy beneath the surface. Qin Qian said, don't bother searching. Even an ancient holy spirit master from the Thundercloud sect couldn't find the cause, let alone you. Li Wei retracted his spiritual light threads. Where are your people from the Thundercloud sect? I can take you to a place not far from them. Qin Qian pondered for a moment before explaining. After the Hidden Dragon Lantern Festival concluded, the young disciples of the Five Seas realm didn't return to the Eastern Territory. Instead, we all gathered near the entrance to the underground immortal mansion, led by sect elders and true inheritance disciples to investigate and search for treasures. We only retreated when the strange energy within the underground immortal mansion erupted. Many giants and influential figures from the Thundercloud sect rushed over to investigate the anomalies in various locations. Some went to Fu Prefecture City to communicate with the Zhang clan, believing that since the Zhang clan had controlled Fu Prefecture for many years, they must know something about the situation underground. Others went to Chu Prefecture City to seek an audience with the Confucian Tao Transcendent, believing that the Transcendent's spiritual power would surely be able to unravel the mystery of this strange energy. On the way to Chu Prefecture City, we were ambushed by the Demon Clan. In the chaos, I fell into the hands of Long Ting. I have no idea where to find the Thundercloud sect members now. There should still be some true inheritance disciples near the entrance to the underground immortal mansion. Li Wei asked, do you know the location of Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City? I've been there. It's only 100 miles from the entrance to the underground immortal mansion, but the exact direction. Qin Qian shook her head. Hurry and heal your wounds. The demon clan might catch up at any moment. Li Wei had been flying north in a straight line, so the demon clan's powerful cultivators were sure to guess he was heading for the underground immortal mansion. Tracking him wouldn't be difficult. He dared to do this for 2 reasons. First, he wanted to reveal his location to Shi Zhoujai and possibly Elder Zhou, who might be following him. If he remained hidden underground, they wouldn't be able to protect him. Second, Li Wei's spiritual jade boat was a high-grade treasure from 1,000 years ago, belonging to Governor Zhu Qinfeng. It was an escape artifact that could only reach its full-speed potential on the surface. As they entered the northern Chu plains, martial mystic cultivators on flying beasts occasionally soared through the sky or traveled stealthily along the ground, all heading for the underground immortal mansion. Li Wei stopped a Five Seas realm martial mystic cultivator from Shu Prefecture and asked for directions to Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City. He learned it was only 800 miles away. Ignoring his growling stomach, Li Wei retrieved the jade boat and called for Qin Qian to board. They planned to take turns piloting the boat, aiming to reach Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City before nightfall. There, they could enjoy hot, steaming noodles and a long, hot bath. Thinking of this, Li Wei grew anxious. Don't worry, there's no need to fret. I have a friend over there who can help me kill Long Ting. Your reputation is important, but mine is even more so. What if Zuoqiu Hongting calls off the engagement? Li Wei released his spiritual qi, infusing it into the palm-sized jade boat, causing it to expand to 5 or 6 meters in length. The jade boat's length was adjustable. The smaller the boat, the less spiritual qi it consumed. Qin Qian boarded the boat, feeling sorry for him. She asked with concern, life must have been difficult for you in the Zuoqiu clan after your ancestral field was ruined, right? I heard you even tried to kill yourself. If Zuoqiu Hongting calls off the engagement, she'll regret it. Your spiritual power talent is quite extraordinary. Boom. A thunderclap echoed from the clear sky in the distance, sounding utterly abrupt. Li Wei looked up to see a vast expanse of black clouds surging toward them. Are those the thundercloud sex experts? Qin Qian's expression changed dramatically as she looked over. Run. That's Yingji, a demonic beast with lightning Dao technique. Its cultivation is far more terrifying than Long Ting's. It's one of the dragon sect's mountain-guarding giant beasts. Black clouds rolled in from the south, accompanied by a bone-chilling wind that swept across the land. A high-pitched, eerie screams echoed from within the clouds. Then, a bolt of lightning streaked across the void for dozens of miles, striking the ground where the jade boat had been. Boom. 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 Thunder rumbled, and dust billowed. The jade boat transformed into a streak of light, soaring into the sky and narrowly dodging the attack. Li Wei poured spiritual qi into the jade boat without restraint. Inside, countless scriptures materialized, their speed increasing rapidly as they sliced through the sky toward Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City. Trailing behind them was Yingji, a monstrous bird with 2 rocky heads and wings spanning over 60 meters, its feathers etched with countless lightning patterns. In terms of speed alone, it could crush any Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivator of the same cultivation level. Yet, it found itself struggling to keep up with the jade boat ahead. It was simply too fast. After only 200 miles, Li Wei's spiritual qi in his 5 seas and wind mansion was completely depleted. He immediately switched to Qin Qian to take over the driving. He quickly sat down to meditate, inhaling heaven and earth spiritual qi. At that moment, the flow of heaven and earth spiritual qi began to behave strangely. To the left, a powerful force emerged, drawing and swallowing the heaven and earth spiritual qi, causing the spiritual qi in the region to grow increasingly thin. Li Wei glanced left. On the horizon, against the backdrop of the setting sun, a bone bird took flight. Its entire skeletal frame was crimson, with blood vessels coursing through the grooves of its bones. It possessed a long, bony tail and was shrouded in crimson clouds as it intercepted the jade boat. It's the bone bird king of Yin Mountain, Shang Lai, Qin Qian said, her voice tense. The 2 demonic beasts pursuing them were notorious powerhouses in the Lingxiao realm. Once caught, they would have no chance of fighting back. Only Li Wei, a divine hidden one of the Zhu Li tribe, had the authority to provoke them into personally intervening. Li Wei spoke in a teaching tone. The more dangerous the situation, the calmer you must remain. You must learn to adapt. Our speed is high, they won't catch us easily. Have the jade boat fly low to the ground, using the terrain to evade their ranged attacks. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4. Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 23 278 The Divine Snowsword / 23rd of Volume 4. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei's jade void breathing technique was extraordinary, allowing him to recover spiritual qi several times faster than other martial mystic cultivators. Even when faced with the bone bird king Shang Lai's spiritual qi stripping, he could still absorb heaven, earth, and law spiritual qi. He quickly replenished the severely depleted spiritual qi in his 5 seas and wind mansion. At the same time, his 10 springs spiritual power surged, continuously converting into qi. The jade boat's scripture flashed like flowing light, lifting several dozen feet off the ground as it searched for a low hill to evade the aerial attacks. This treasure was no ordinary item. Li Wei strongly suspected it might be close to a myriad character artifact. Ga Ja. A chorus of piercing raven scream erupted from the right. Dark red demonic qi billowed from a several-mile-long fissure in the earth, coalescing into a vast demon cloud. Countless raven shadows swirled within the cloud. They lacked the imposing size and terrifying aura of Yingji and Shang Lai, but their sheer numbers were overwhelming. Each raven was as large as a winnowing basket, with metallic beaks and claws, and eyes like 2 fiery egg-sized orbs. At this moment, Li Wei had taken the helm of the jade boat. Qin Qian, exhausted, was gasping for breath, desperately trying to regulate her breathing. Li Wei gazed at the candle shadow demon crows swarming toward them like a tidal wave. His heart sank. He changed the jade boat's course to evade the onslaught while preparing to activate his governor's robe and dive underground once more. Did old Joe actually catch up? Li Wei grew increasingly doubtful that they had lost him. His nerves tightened, and a sense of impending doom unlike any he had felt before washed over him. Just then, his internal injuries flared up, sending a wave of searing pain through his body. This is Chu Prefecture territory. How dare the demon race act so brazenly? He muttered. The immortal martial edict only restricted internal conflicts among the major human race powers, it didn't limit immortal realm great powers from dealing with the demon race. Qin Qian, still meditating, turned pale. She glanced alternately at Yingji and Shang Lai, who were closing in, and at the demon cloud formed by the candle shadow demon crows. Ever since the strange phenomenon erupted beneath the earth, the demon race, ember spirits, dead spirits, and heretical sects have become active in this region. The reasons behind this are beyond our comprehension as mere juniors. Boom. A lightning bolt in the shape of the character Ji tore through the sky, blindingly bright. It split a small hill in two, sending earth and stone flying and causing the ground to sink. The jade boat, which had flown around the hill, was struck by countless rocks, creating ripples of light across its surface. Li Wei felt the pressure mounting, a chilling sense of impending doom creeping over him. Come here. Hold on to me tightly. Qin Qian had long suspected Li Wei possessed some extraordinary trump card. His previous act of knocking her unconscious was clearly meant to keep her from learning about it. She hurried over and, from behind, tightly embraced his arm, whispering, "Next time you knock me out, give me a heads up first." Li Wei remained silent. Over a dozen miles from the jade boat, three figures, two men and a woman, burst from the ground. Their movements were incredibly swift as they appeared atop a low hill, gazing into the distance. It was the three Dharma kings of the Earthwolf King's army. Shi Luyu, a gaunt man with green eyes, a green buzz cut, and a wide, sinister robe, cackled eerily, "Good boy, you're even more skilled than me. Always with a different woman, and the quality is damn high. Top tier even among pure immortal physiques." He swallowed hard, his eyes gleaming. The other two were Shi Zhoujai and Shi Qiqing. Shi Zhoujai chuckled. This young man and I seem to have a karmic connection. Shall we save him? Shi Qiqing stood on Shi Luyu's other side, her 2-meter-long pink hair floating in the air, its fragrance wafting for miles. She wore a colorful tube top that left her ample cleavage and flat, snow-white abdomen completely exposed, making her look incredibly alluring and sexy. A slender silver chain wound around her waist. Strung along the chain were tiny rose ornaments that spiraled down her slender jade legs, tinkling softly in the wind. Several rare insects, all commander level, rested on her body. Her silver bell-like laughter rang out. What a powerful jade boat spiritual artifact. It must be top tier even in the imperial court. If I had one like this, I'd have a fighting chance against an immortal realm giant. After all, he's a divine hidden one of the Zhu hidden sect. The treasures he wields are truly beyond our comprehension, Shi Zhoujai said. Shi Qiqing spoke solemnly. Yingji and Shang Lai are no ordinary foes. They've both cultivated Dao fruits and are formidable opponents. Sixth brother, as the first commander of the Earthwolf King's army, what do you say? I'll follow your lead. Shi Luyu replied, young Li has the same spirit I had in my youth. And he's a man of clear principles. When Shi helped him, he immediately gifted him a Dao lotus to aid his breakthrough, a truly generous gesture. Besides, we were the ones who sent him into the Zhu hidden sect and watched him grow step by step, right, ninth brother. Shi Zhoujai said, if we're going to save him, let's stop dawdling and get to it. All this dithering is just wasting time. I'll handle Yingji. Ninth brother, you distract Shang Lai. Seventh sister, that demon cloud is yours. After we're done, we'll have that young Li treat us. Ha ha ha. Shi Luyu's body coiled like a spring. After crouching low, he leapt dozens of meters into the air. A torrent of green flames erupted from within him, briefly suspending him in midair. From his ancestral field, two spiritual artifacts shot forth, a circular flying disc and a long spear with a green tassel. Boom. Clasping the spear in both hands, he accelerated dramatically, hurtling toward the black cloud region where Yingji was located. It's worth noting that Yingji's wingspan exceeded 60 meters, its body crackling with thunder and lightning, its aura incredibly imposing. Few martial mystic cultivators below the immortal realm would dare charge it so recklessly. Li Wei, hearing Shi Luyu's maniacal laughter, turned to watch, his expression a mixture of surprise and delight. The Six Desires Dharma King is reliable, even if his character is among the worst in the Southern Territory. When it comes to a fight, he's the first to step up. Shi Zhoujai produced his 100-character scripture artifact bow and arrow. The sound of the bowstring being drawn back echoed for miles. The powerful ripples of spiritual chi emanating from his robust arms spread across the surrounding hills. Boom! An arrow shot forth. The mere force of the bowstring's vibration sent sand and stones flying from the hilltop, shattering withered grass. The arrow pierced the sky, aimed at the bone bird king Shang Lai, but was deflected by its long tail bone. Shi Zhoujai knew his opponent's cultivation was terrifying, far beyond the 7th level of the Dao Seed realm. After firing the arrow, he immediately retreated, firing a second and then a third arrow as he fled. The sky erupted with over a dozen violent energy ripples. Then came a deafening thunderclap as Shi Luyu plummeted from the sky, crashing heavily into the ground, leaving a massive crater and sending dust billowing into the air. Li Wei, piloting a jade boat, flew past the scene. Sixth brother, if you can't win, let's retreat. Want to take the helm of this spiritual artifact jade boat? Shi Luyu leapt out of the crater, utterly disheveled, his spear slung over his shoulder. Retreat. It's not Yao Qian, that prefecture-level first-rank commander. Why should I fear it? You take your woman and flee. We'll handle this. Sixth brother, you misunderstand. That's Lu Kangsheng's woman, Li Wei quickly clarified. These Dharma kings were known for their loose tongues, everything they said was twisted. Shi Luyu had already charged forward, but upon hearing Li Wei's words, he stopped abruptly, turning to stare at him in astonishment. You've got guts, kid. As someone who's been around the block, sixth brother has to warn you, don't get carried away with provocation. The Thundercloud sect isn't to be trifled with. Don't talk nonsense. It's not what you think. Li Wei said, exasperated. You're even wearing her clothes. What's there to explain? Shi Luyu roared with laughter, then soared into the sky with his spear. Li Wei's spiritual qi was severely depleted. He told Qin Qian to take control of the jade boat and turn to the stern to observe the battle in the sky. Ying Ji, Sheng Lai, and the distant demon cloud were all being held back, indicating that at least 3 formidable experts from the Earthwolf King's army had arrived. Judging by their spiritual qi alone, these demonic beasts were no ordinary foes, even 3 Dharma kings would struggle to defeat them. The entire sky was a chaotic tapestry of interwoven spiritual qi energies, punctuated by endless explosions. Suddenly, Sheng Lai's scream pierced through the air, carrying a spiritual attack that spanned 10 miles of empty space and landed directly on Li Wei and Qin Qian. The screams echoed in Li Wei's mind, causing his head to split with pain. Qin Qian immediately collapsed, and the jade boat, thrown off balance, plummeted to the ground, carving a deep furrow across the plain that stretched for dozens of yards. What realm is this demon beast? Li Wei's spirit realm flickered with light as he used his psychic power to resist the pressure and gradually recovered. He staggered to his feet. Clatter. Dozens of candle shadow demon crows descended from the sky. Each one possessed combat power comparable to a 5 seas realm martial mystic cultivator, their eyes burning with flames. Clang. Li Wei drew his yellow dragon sword and charged forward, unleashing his Rui Chenkin sword technique to cut down the demon ravens one by one, splattering blood across the desolate plains. The wind on the plains grew increasingly fierce. Yellow and red leaves swirled through the air. A long, drawn-out sword cry echoed from the north. The sound was faint yet incredibly clear, like a vibrating string, causing the very air between heaven and earth to tremble rhythmically. Every cultivator present felt an extraordinary aura. Clatter. Large swaths of autumn leaves rose from the forest. A second sword clang followed, sweeping from north to south, its sound clear and resonant, already close at hand. A third sword clang rang out. A sword radiating terrifying icy coldness flew past Li Wei, carrying an overwhelming sword intent. It streaked across the sky like a meteor, leaving a trail of light as it hurtled toward Yingji in the heavens. Where the sword passed, snowflakes danced. The demon ravens besieging Li Wei were instantly transformed into icy crystals and blood mist, their bones reduced to powder. The divine snow sword. Li Wei narrowed his eyes, gazing in the direction the sword had flown from. The divine snow sword soared through the air, brilliant and dazzling, shattering the black clouds with irresistible force. It pierced through Yingji's massive demon body, leaving a gaping bloody hole. Yingji's mournful cry echoed through the heavens as his corpse plummeted to the ground. Even before it hit the ground, the bloody hole began to freeze over, covered in countless icy crystals. Bone Bird King Sheng Lai knew who had arrived. His eyes widened in terror. The moment the sword's cry rang out, he flapped his bony wings, desperate to escape. Sheng Lai. Tang Wanzhou's voice, like a death knell, cut through the air. She had come from the north, each step she took turning the ground beneath her into 100-jong expanse of ice and snow. She arrived on the elevated plain where Li Wei stood, her fingers weaving a sword incantation. After piercing Yingji, the divine snow sword arced through the air, cleaving Sheng Lai in two with a single stroke. The demon's body split apart, his blood staining the dim twilight crimson. This land, already covered in tombstones and burial mounds, became even more terrifying. Clang. The divine snow sword flew back and landed in Tang Wanzhou's hand. Her blue ponytail ribbon fluttered in the wind, her posture tall and heroic. She swung her sword toward the void. Whoosh! A brilliant arc of sword chi shot forth, stretching from east to west, clearing the demon cloud from the sky. All the candle shadow demon crows dissolved into flesh and feathers. The entire world fell silent. Only the wind howled fiercely, and the rustling of leaves filled the air. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 24 279 Snow Sword Tang Quartz Camp. 24th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Shi Luyu, his heart pounding in terror, plummeted from mid-air and quickly joined Shi Zhoujai and Shi Qiqing. The three men nervously gazed at the terrifying figure radiating an imposing aura in the distance. How could it be her? Shi Qiqing said with trepidation. The north wind doesn't know spring comes late, snow crushes the 14 prefectures of the southern territory. What a terrifying sword intent. Lu Sei, how many strikes can you withstand? Shi Zhoujai asked in a low voice. Shi Luyu ignored him, his nerves frayed. He desperately wanted to burrow underground and flee. Given his reputation, there was a good chance the young lord of the northern territory would cleave him in two with a single sword strike. Tang Wanzhou glanced indifferently at the three men in the distance, sheathed his sword, and walked past Li Wei. Right on time. We'll enter the underground immortal mansion tomorrow morning. Several Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators from the northern territory charged toward the corpses of Yingqi, Sheng Lai, and the other demonic beasts. Demonic beasts of this level were treasures from head to toe, especially their Dao lotuses, Dao fruits, and spiritual artifacts. Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City, located just 100 miles from the entrance to the underground immortal mansion, was teeming with powerful cultivators. Under the cover of night, numerous encampments dotted the wilderness surrounding the city, like scattered patches of light veiled by the shimmering curtain of formations. Outside the Snow Sword Tang Quartz barracks, formation flags stood tall, and a multitude of exotic beasts lay sprawled on the ground. A patrol of elite soldiers clad in spiritual artifact armor marched through the camp. Tuoba Buchuo personally escorted Qin Qian to the stronghold of several true inheritance disciples from the Thundercloud sect. Upon his return, he went to Li Wei's room. Li Wei sat on a chair by the bed, his injuries stabilized, color returning to his face. He subtly probed Tuoba Buchuo about Tang Wanzhou's urgent desire to re-explore the underground immortal mansion. In reality, he wanted to gauge the mission's danger level. Tuoba Buchuo replied, in the past 6 months, the young lord has entered the underground immortal mansion 5 times, spending most of his time within. Young lord's trip to Chu Prefecture City served 3 purposes: to purchase resources and supplies, to visit the transcendent of the Confucian Dao from the Zhuoqiu clan, and to find a skilled insect tamer. You are one of our top candidates. Li Wei said, the Northern Wanyan clan is renowned throughout the world for their mastery of insect control. The Northern Wanyan clan and the Southern Zhuli tribe are both renowned masters of insect control. Tuoba Buchuo forced a wry smile and continued, I won't hide anything from you. The young lord's mission and the place he intends to go are extremely dangerous. The Wanyan clan's commander-grade strange insects have suffered heavy losses. However, the insect tamers themselves have mostly survived, as the young lord values their lives greatly. Insects can be replaced. But spiritual master-level insect tamers are treasures. Li Wei had already anticipated this. If the situation weren't dire, a proud figure like Tang Wanzhou wouldn't have bothered meeting a 5 seas realm martial mystic cultivator like him. Li Wei asked, Brother Tuoba, have you ever been inside the underground immortal mansion? Tuoba Buchuo nodded, I've only been in once, for about half a month. My gains were minimal. Most of my time was spent in Kaifeng Ancient Prefecture City, comprehending the Dragon Clan Heavenly Emperor's martial mystic Dao within the Dragon Seed, and cultivating. I didn't want to fall behind my peers who were also Seed Dao martial mystic cultivators. But this time, I'll be accompanying you to ensure your safety. Is there really millennial essence herbs with a 5,000-year age inside the underground immortal mansion? Li Wei pressed, placing great importance on this. Since commander-grade strange insects had repeatedly perished within the underground immortal mansion, how could Li Wei not worry about Little Seven's safety? If they could quickly reach the Dao Seed realm, their ability to protect themselves would naturally increase dramatically. Tuoba Buchuo said, I can't say about 5,000-year-old essence herbs, but I've seen 3,000-year-old ones firsthand. They were unearthed by a Dao Seed realm expert from the imperial court who had been missing for decades. The medicinal fragrance was so potent that it couldn't be contained even by a boundary pouch, and many powerful figures pursued him. Our Snow Sword Tang court has also unearthed some millennial essence herbs, including one that reached 2,600 years in age. The most valuable treasures in the underground immortal mansion, however, aren't the millennial essence herbs or the fragments of spirit platform blazing star stone. They are the Dao techniques, spiritual codices, and spiritual artifacts left behind by the ancient Bhagavata sect. Li Wei hadn't yet reached the Dao Seed realm and wasn't particularly interested in Dao techniques and spiritual codices. Besides, once he found Zhenhai Guanwu and his 3 masters, wouldn't he have access to plenty of them? Li Wei thought of another important matter. I hear the Twin Rice sect has become quite active lately. Tuoba Buchuo's stern face, cast in silver, grew cold. In the past, evil gods wouldn't dare show themselves. But after 11 years of war, the major powers are exhausted and have suffered heavy losses. The demon clan's invasion further weakened the transcendent realm, with many dead or injured and forced into seclusion for recovery. Now, they've finally emerged to stir up trouble. Another reason is that the proportion of Rendao martial mystic cultivators under the banner of the major powers has surged recently, providing opportunities for the Twin Rice sect to infiltrate, manipulate, and subvert them, creating a confusing situation where friend and foe are indistinguishable. Li Wei wanted to say, could it be because the major powers have exploited the Rendao too harshly and failed to treat them with sufficient respect, making it easy for the Twin Rice sect to recruit them as followers? But these thoughts remained unspoken. To voice them would only lead to a pointless argument. Young Master Tuoba, young Master Li, the young lord requests your presence. A military expert in full armor arrived to deliver the message. Li Wei and Tuoba Buchuo followed him to Tang Wanzhou's tent. Inside, the tent was brightly lit, filled with dozens of martial mystic path experts, most clad in armor. Among them were pure immortal physique cultivators and aberrant humanoids. Tang Wanzhou sat at the head of the table. After introducing Li Wei to the assembly, he began making arrangements. Tomorrow, we depart precisely at 7:45 a.m., taking the 8th route. I will lead the vanguard, with Tuoba Shenhe and Tang Hu bringing up the rear. Any precious medicine, essence herb, or spirit platform blazing star stones we find along the way will be kept by the finder. Each faction may copy a set of the Dao techniques and spiritual codices. The Snow Sword Tang Court will receive the original copies. Other treasures, such as wealth, will be distributed based on merit. Once we enter the underground immortal mansion, I will reveal the true purpose of this expedition. After Tang Wanzhou finished speaking, the crowd dispersed. He kept 5 people behind, including Li Wei. All 5 were spiritual power cultivators. 3 were extremely old, with snow-white hair but spirited demeanors and profound spiritual power cultivation. Through their conversation, Li Wei learned that 2 of the elders were top-tier spiritual masters over a century old, renowned throughout the Northern Territory for their mastery of spiritual power artifacts used to combat dead spirits. The other 2 were insect tamers. One was a middle-aged woman from the Wanyan clan. To Li Wei's surprise, the remaining elder had been recruited by Tang Wanzhou from the Zhuli tribe. Young Li, I am Shan Zi, the Zhuli tribe's Shanli tribe's foremost spiritual power cultivator. I spent over 40 years cultivating at the Divine Temple. It's a great pleasure to finally meet you, the tribe's legendary young prodigy. Shan Zi had a round face and short stature, leaning on a wooden staff and covered in insect pouches. Li Wei knew that besides the Zhuli Divine Hall, the Shanli tribe was the most skilled in insect control within the Zhuli tribe. For Shan Zi to claim the title of the Shanli tribe's top spiritual power cultivator was no small feat. His status was so high he could stand on equal footing with the tribe's clan chief. Tang Wanzhou's influence was truly remarkable. Li Wei exchanged pleasantries with Shan Zi. Tang Wanzhou said, the 5 of you will follow me tomorrow, responsible for clearing the path. As long as you give your all and don't slack off, I promise you'll receive more treasures from the underground immortal mansion than any other martial mystic cultivator. Go prepare now. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. The 4 men took their leave one after another, leaving Li Wei alone. Tang Wanzhou stood with his hands clasped behind his back, studying the maps of the underground immortal mansion and Fu prefecture that he had sketched on the table. Your injuries are severe, you're the youngest, and your cultivation is the lowest. Tuoba Buchuo will be responsible for protecting you. Is there anything else? She looked up at Li Wei. Li Wei remained expressionless. Young lord, you said we could ask for anything we needed. I do have a small request. I heard that one of the demonic beasts we killed earlier contained a Dao lotus. Tang Wanzhou stared at him for a long moment before calling out to the soldiers waiting outside the tent, bring the newly acquired Dao lotus. You're still cultivating qi. It's been over half a year, and your wind mansion still isn't full. She suddenly became interested. Just a little more. Li Wei could use the spatial power of the Buddha's relic to inject a Dao fruit into his wind mansion, but he struggled to control it precisely. That's why he had been hesitant to act. Li Wei was different. The Dao lotus he released emitted only about 10,000 cubic meters of spiritual qi. Li Wei believed that expanding his wind mansion by another 10,000 cubic meters wouldn't be too risky. Of course, he was eager to complete his 6th sea cultivation as soon as possible and then move on to the 7th sea. Master Guan had told him that reaching the 7th sea would make it much easier to defeat Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators at the 2nd level. Once the 7th sea was fully cultivated, he could begin Seed Dao cultivation and attempt to break through to the Dao Seed Realm. After all, the 8th sea Divine Abyss didn't require cultivation, it expanded infinitely on its own. The spiritual power accumulated within it was already in liquid form, amounting to a full cubic meter, a treasure Li Wei had been reluctant to use. He suspected the divine abyss might also be suitable for seed Dao cultivation, with the liquid spiritual power nourishing the Dao seed. He discussed this with his three masters, but they couldn't say for sure. After all, the divine abyss had always been just a legend. Before long, the jade box containing the Dao lotus was delivered to his tent. This Dao lotus had been cultivated by the Candle Shadow Crow King and had just been harvested, still carrying the scent of blood and demonic qi. Thank you, young lord. After absorbing the spiritual qi from this Dao lotus, I will return it immediately, Li Wei said, clasping his hands in a respectful bow. Even after releasing its spiritual qi, the Dao lotus retained significant value for alchemy, making it a treasure for Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators seeking to improve their cultivation. Tang Wanzhou asked, have you already begun cultivating spatial Dao techniques? No. Li Wei replied. She smiled. Then how did you manage to insert the Dao lotus into your wind mansion and retrieve it so quickly? The wind mansion isn't like an ancestral field, which is relatively easy to connect to the outside world. Li Wei fell silent, struggling to find an explanation. Everyone has their secrets. Don't dwell on it. If you don't want to say, then don't. Tang Wanzhou continued, I'm telling you this because I've already achieved basic mastery of spatial Dao techniques and can help you. You don't need to risk doing it yourself. Are you afraid I'll discover how many golden meridians you have? Or is something else bothering you? Li Wei smiled calmly. With young lord's cultivation and strength, if you truly wanted to uncover someone's secrets, why would you waste so much breath? Thank you for your offer of assistance, young lord. Any further refusal would seem too deliberate. Tang Wanzhou held the Dao lotus in one hand and pinched his fingers with the other, probing Li Wei's wind mansion. He was immediately startled. Li Wei's wind mansion had already expanded to over 20,000 cubic meters. And he hadn't even reached full cultivation yet. For ordinary martial mystic cultivators with the 100 meridians pure silver immortal physique, breaking through 10,000 cubic meters in their wind mansion was considered a benchmark. Over time, this became one of the criteria for judging whether someone was an inheritor-level genius. If a wind mansion failed to reach 10,000 cubic meters, it was considered that the cultivator was already falling behind in the 5 Seas realm. They would be removed from the ranks of inheritors. Inheritors are held to extremely high standards at each realm. Leading in the Surging Spring realm doesn't guarantee eternal dominance. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 25 280 Cocoon of Time. 25th of Volume 4. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Li Wei took out a bottle of spring liquid and handed it to Tang Wanzhou. The process of expanding your innate world is extremely dangerous. Never push yourself too hard. When you sense the limit of your world barrier, immediately inform me with your psychic power. Cultivating the 6th sea and 7th sea is essentially creating a more expansive space for your Dao Sea to grow and accumulate richer spiritual qi. It's like planting a tree. The larger the container and the more soil you provide, the more room it has to grow, and the greater its potential for the future. Tang Wanzhou paused, her fingertips erupting with invisible, colorless spatial power that warped the surrounding scenery. The Dao lotus vanished from her palm. The next moment, it reappeared, suspended above Li Wei's wind mansion, at the center of his innate world. It spun rapidly, releasing spiritual qi that coalesced into a vortex, supporting the expansion of his innate world. 21,000 cubic meters. 22,000 cubic meters. 23,000 cubic meters. Tang Wanzhou poured out the spring liquid from the bottle, transforming it into a stream that danced around her finger before entering Li Wei's wind mansion through the center of the spatial ripples. As the world barrier expanded, the spring liquid continued to merge with it. 26,000 cubic meters. 27,000 cubic meters. Tang Wanzhou observed Li Wei's expression, concerned he might be pushing himself too hard. To her surprise, his face remained unchanged. His breathing was steady and even, and his spiritual qi circulated continuously through his veins and string meridians. In just moments, the spiritual qi within the Dao lotus had completely dissipated, leaving it calm and still. Tang Wanzhou retrieved it from his wind mansion. Even with her composed demeanor, she couldn't help but marvel inwardly. Li Wei's wind mansion had already surpassed 30,000 cubic meters, 3 times the size of an ordinary inheritor's. No wonder he could defeat the Luansheng Linyu against all odds. Truly remarkable, Tang Wanzhou mused, highly suspecting that his 5th sea had already exceeded 10,000 cubic meters. She refrained from probing further, respecting his privacy. Li Wei took out the Dao fruit he had previously used for only 10,000 cubic meters and handed it to Tang Wanzhou, smiling slightly. Young lord, please lend me a hand again. Let's finish opening my wind mansion in one go. Having spent months refining his innate world at 20,000 cubic meters, he wasn't afraid of the instability that rapid expansion could cause. Tang Wanzhou, her proud heart that had once looked down on all martial mystic cultivators throughout history, felt a profound sense of wonder. For the first time, she truly understood the saying, beyond the heavens, there are still heavens, beyond the mountains, there are still mountains. Taking the Dao fruit, she offered a final word of caution before channeling her spatial power to infuse it into Li Wei's wind mansion. This time, both Tang Wanzhou and Li Wei were far more cautious. Li Wei focused all his psychic power and spiritual energy on his wind mansion, not daring to make the slightest mistake. He could already sense the world barrier of his wind mansion reaching its limit, step by step. At the Dao Seed realm, the wind mansion could be expanded further, there was no need to stubbornly cling to its size at the 5 Seas realm. Finally, his wind mansion expanded to 36,000 cubic meters. Tang Wanzhou retrieved the Dao fruit, placed it back in its box, and immediately sealed it. This Dao fruit still contains approximately 30,000 cubic meters of spiritual qi. Li Wei sat in meditation to regulate his qi. The 16,000 cubic meters of newly added, foreign spiritual qi in his wind mansion gradually settled, merging with the original 20,000 cubic meters. The rejection between the two energies diminished by more than half. He stood up, clasped his hands in gratitude once more. Tang Wanzhou stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the map on the table. After a moment of thought, he said, "How about you lend me the rare insect? That way, you won't have to go down there." Li Wei asked, "Is this journey very dangerous?" Tang Wanzhou replied, "Indeed. You have remarkable talent, but your cultivation is still too low. Everyone else on this expedition is far older than you. To be frank, I can't guarantee your safety. With your wind mansion's foundation of 36,000, if you were to perish down there, the people of the Zhuli hidden sect would likely come after me for revenge." While Li Wei pondered this seriously, Tang Wanzhou continued, "Even if your ancestral field is damaged and rendered useless, preventing you from cultivating the Dao, your wind mansion of 36,000 is still more vast than the ancestral fields of most inheritors. With such a wind mansion to cultivate the Dao, the threshold of the immortal realm won't stop you. The reason those martial mystic cultivators who cultivate the Dao through their wind mansions fail to reach the immortal realm is fundamentally because their wind mansions have limited growth potential, which restricts the growth of their Dao seeds. Let me give you an analogy. The Dao is like a tree, and the seed is the seed of that tree. How tall the tree can grow depends first and foremost on the seed itself. But the amount of soil and the size of the growing space are equally important. The size of your wind mansion is like the growing space for the tree, and the spiritual qi within your wind mansion is like the soil. Martial mystic cultivators forced to cultivate the Dao in their wind mansions can only expand them to a maximum of 3 or 4,000 cubic meters in the 5 Seas realm. Even in the Dao seed realm, it's like a tree in a pot, it can never grow to its full potential. That's the fundamental difference between you and them. After she finished speaking, Li Wei said, "I've thought it through. Even if I don't go with you, my nature would still drive me to venture in alone. Traveling with you might actually be safer, and we'd have a better chance of finding the spirit platform blazing star stone and millennium essence herbs." Tang Wanzhou smiled. "That's exactly what I was waiting to hear. You won't find the spirit platform blazing star stone or millennium essence herbs in the outer regions of the underground immortal mansion. Those areas have been swept clean countless times. I'm going to a place no one has ever reached before, deeper within. As for the danger, in this world, any endeavor with high rewards and crucial implications for one's cultivation path will never be perfectly safe. If you can prepare for every contingency, it's not a truly significant undertaking, and you won't achieve any great results." Li Wei saw in Tang Wanzhou the same adventurous spirit and passionate fighting spirit that burned within himself. He smiled and said, "Young lord, please keep this a secret." "Go," Tang Wanzhou said, dismissing him. Back at his residence, Li Wei consumed a bottle of life spirit spring and sat in meditation to heal his injuries. However, his mind remained restless. He considered leaving his tent to meet with several Dharma kings from the Earthwolf King's army. But then he remembered that Kaifeng ancient county city was teeming with veteran masters, and that members of the demon race and heretical sect were lurking in the shadows, eyeing him like prey. He abandoned the idea. His fingers traced the Dao ancestor's Tai Chi fish around his neck, his heart pounding with excitement. He could finally begin the test. He dared not activate it within his room, fearing the unusual fluctuations might alert the masters of the Snow Sword Tang Court. He released the 7 little ones from his insect pouch. After their battle with Long Ting, they were visibly exhausted. He produced his last bottle of life spirit spring and fed it to them. Li Wei had completely exhausted his supply of millennium essence herbs. Zai couldn't take them continuously, so he would have to feed them precious medicine for now, at least to fill their bellies. He instructed them to guard the room. After making preparations, Li Wei entered the blood mud space of Shaoyang Star. The blood mud land before him had expanded once more, now covering an area of about a hectare. His vision finally opened up. Reaching the level of spiritual master significantly expands the blood-mud space. Li Wei glanced at the Dao ancestor's Tai Chi fish around his neck. The pale cyan fish eye was indeed flickering, just as Zhenhai Guanwu had predicted. Without hesitation, he leapt onto the jade boat, sat cross-legged, and channeled the spirit light from his spirit realm between his eyebrows into a stream of light that surged toward the remaining fish eye. The azure fish eye's radiance grew brighter as it absorbed the stream of psychic power. What's going on? Half of my spiritual light has already poured out, yet it's only flickering. Why hasn't anything else changed? Li Wei's spiritual power, Nianli, star was only the size of a mung bean. As the spiritual light continued to flow out, the star rapidly diminished and dimmed. If he kept this up, he risked losing his cultivation level. After all, he had only just condensed his spiritual power star, and his cultivation realm was still unstable. Li Wei was about to stop the test when, crack, the Dao ancestor's Tai Chi fish slowly began to rotate. No matter. Since there's a change, I'll pour everything into it. Li Wei continued to channel his spiritual light. Tiny particles of light enveloped the Dao ancestor's Tai Chi fish, constantly disappearing into the azure fish eye. After the yin-yang twin fish completed a full rotation, the Dao ancestor's Tai Chi fish automatically floated up and hovered above Li Wei's head. Whoosh! Countless pale cyan threads of light shot out from the azure fish eye, forming a circular cocoon about 10 feet in diameter that enveloped Li Wei. Li Wei's heart raced. He stood up abruptly, carefully observing and sensing his surroundings. The pale cyan cocoon threads were thin enough to see through, like mist or gauze, a myriad of strands isolating him from the outside world. He touched the cocoon with his finger. The cocoon trembled slightly, sending ripples across its surface, radiating an exquisite sense of spirituality. What exactly is this? Didn't they say the azure fish eye might involve time power? Li Wei was puzzled and wanted to break free. But using his psychic power even once had been incredibly draining, so he hesitated to risk it. Time cocoon. A faint, melodious voice echoed from an unknown source, as if from the depths of time and space. It sounded a bit like the gourd-mouthed guardian wife's voice. Li Wei's eyes darted around, searching for her, but she was nowhere to be seen. He quickly asked, "Is that you? Have you finally woken up? What is a time cocoon?" The time silkworm feeds on the lifespans of all living beings, weaving a time cocoon to evade the laws of the universe. The cocoon silk of your time cocoon is woven from psychic power. The stronger your psychic power, the more stable and profound the cocoon becomes. The voice gradually faded, growing fainter and fainter. Li Wei quickly asked, "What exactly does the time cocoon do? How do I use it? What makes it so profound? This is only the beginning, its true profundity has yet to be revealed. I will wait for you in the future. I seem to have arrived too early. This is an era before the bronze ship has even arrived. You must hurry to the time cosmic market to purchase time intelligence." Her voice was chaotic and illogical, gradually fading away until it disappeared completely. Li Wei was left bewildered and confused. He asked again, "Can you explain more clearly? Who are you? Are you the bride in the wedding dress hidden within my blood?" There was no response. He repeated his question several times, even cutting his wrist to draw blood, but still couldn't summon her. Li Wei quickly stopped the bleeding and began to think carefully. It wasn't entirely fruitless. At least two pieces of useful information emerged. First, the pale cyan fish eye was indeed related to time. Second, the stronger one's psychic power, the stronger the time cocoon woven. As for the other nonsensical ramblings, Li Wei silently recorded them, intending to consult Zhenhai Guanwu and his three masters when he found them. Figures who had lived for thousands, even tens of thousands of years, would surely know more than he did. Li Wei tried to retract the azure cocoon threads into his spirit realm between his eyebrows, but failed. Next, he took a star spiritual pill and began the Fusong divine tree meditation technique to replenish his severely depleted psychic power. Having reached the spiritual master level, his absorption rate for the star spiritual pill was now 3 times faster than before. Even absorbing the Fusong divine tree's radiant light from the Tanggu Sea had become much more aggressive. A vast area of the sea surface dimmed. The radiant light seemed to be devoured, pulled into the blood-mud space. The 1-hectare blood-mud space became incredibly bright, the light condensing into a rain of concentrated light. If Li Wei were to open his eyes now and observe the Tanggu Sea outside the time cocoon, he would find the waves moving at an impossibly slow pace, completely unlike their normal appearance. Time passed, its passage immeasurable. Big Phoenix's psychic power voice reached the blood-mud space. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.